And you are live now.
Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you to panel discussion. Topic is a very interesting topic for all of us. Cruise tourism. Is India ready to ride the wave? I have a very distinguished and elite panel along with me to discuss on this topic. We have Mr. Sanjay Bhatia, Deputy Lokayukt for Maharashtra and an ex-chairman of IPA and MBPT. He has been instrumental in developing Mumbai port for so many of the international ships coming to India, and also as being a home port to two, three very big ships being home ported in Mumbai. So we welcome Mr. Sanjay Bhatia as a keynote speaker for us. On the panel, we also have Mrs. Ratna Chadda. She's been a pioneer and the first ones to really make cruising a household holiday option in India. She is from Tirun Marketing and who represent Royal Caribbean and other cruise companies in India. We also have Miss Nalini Gupta. She is a veteran in the travel trade and obviously she's expert in the cruise selling also in India. She represents Costa Cruises in India. We all know Costa Cruises also home ports of ships in India for past few years. We then have Mr. Gautam Day, who's in charge of business development for Mumbai Port. Mumbai Port plays a very important role for cruising in India. We all know lots of international ships home porting in at the Mumbai Port, and then Mumbai Port hosts few domestic cruise ships as well. To give another perspective, we have Mr. Sanjay Basu. He's chairman of the Far Horizon Tours India. He gives us the travel agent's perspective on cruising from India, how India is going to develop, etc. Myself, Pradeep Sabu, Guideline Travels, Mumbai. We've been selling cruises for last 20 years, representing many cruise companies in India, including Star Cruises, Dream Cruises, Norwegian Cruise Line, etc. I'm based in Mumbai, and I've got the honor to moderate this group panel today. So first and foremost, I would request and invite Mr. Sanjay Bhatia to kindly share his views, his insight, as he's the keynote speaker for today's conclave. Mr. Bhatia, over to you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Pradeep. It's so nice to see everyone. We have been having, this group has been having a lot of discussions earlier also. And I'm sure the cruise business is coming back very quickly. Uh, I was present when Mr. Mansukh Mandviya gave his inaugural address today. And he mentioned a lot of steps which have been taken by the government. But to give you a background for the starting of today's session, I'll just give a small history of what has been happening. In I think 2016, we set up a task force of Ministry of Shipping and Ministry of Tourism. And after that, Barmelo and Ajamil were appointed to give us a roadmap for cruise tourism in India. They gave a very fine report. Full action plan was prepared based on that. Then from that, there was another major step which happened. We were in Maritime India Summit. I think all of you were probably present at that time. And in that Maritime India Summit, Mr. Dingle had come. Uh, and Mr. Dingle gave a wish list. He said, if you do these things, then we will start sending cruises to India. And we nearly fulfilled the wish list, besides taking steps which we were to take under the Barmelo and Ajamil report. And turned out to be quite a success. Costa started, Jalej started, Angria started, Mumbai to Goa. In fact, in the first year in 2017-18, I think Mumbai had 40 ship callings, and just before COVID, we had 230 in a single year. So there was a huge jump which happened, and This benefited, I think, all the rest of the ports also, which are the cruising ports, which is Goa, New Mangalore, Cochin, and Chennai. So overall, India had reached, I think, 500 ship callings before the COVID started. Quite a bit of success, but we are still at an infancy. I think it's still less than 1% of the total world's potential. Overall, if you look at uh, the number of tourists, I'm not into COVID yet, because I saw all the other groups were only talking about COVID and how to get out of that. But because we have prepared in the Ministry of Shipping uh, a vision where some of you were party to that. So a full new roadmap has now been prepared for that purpose. But if you look at it, then the potential is absolutely huge. We have from point 0.5, we aim to go to about 1.8 million. From ships today, about 500. We plan to go to about 1,000. Home porting was one home porting had really started Costa, thanks to Nalini and Mr. Dingle. Others were going to come, but the aim is that we should at least have 6 home portings very, very soon. So, India, because we have a world audience here, so India has a huge potential. We had 1.65 billion domestic tourists, and they are all aspirants for cruise tourism. If cruise tourism is affordable, made a little more affordable, all these guys would love to come there. And we have Indian tourists going abroad about 0.24 billion, and they are again potential for this cruise tourism. Today, about 200,000 Indians travel abroad to take cruises, so that is also another huge potential. A lot of steps were taken at that time. You have been party to that. I'll not repeat that too much. One was, of course, regulatory measures, new SOPs prepared, SOPs monitored, trainings given, costs were reduced, brought down as per the wish list. Then uh, number of other concessions were given, ousting charges were removed, marketing efforts were made, some new destinations were selected. So a lot of work has been done. I will just mention now something which is being done in the vision document, which is there 2020. And in that vision document, there are 14 prioritized initiatives which have been taken. First, of course, is infra development. From today's 5 ports, we go to 12 ports. The ports which are getting added are Vizag, Calcutta, Porbandar, Ganpati Phule, Diu, Somnath, and Konark. These get added to the existing ports which are into cruise tourism, and new destinations will be added there also. Then 4 theme-based circuits are planned for cruise tourism. One is pilgrimage in Gujarat for 4 or 5 destinations, cultural and scenic in West Coast, high-end as is their brand for South, heritage for East. East is basically Rameshwaram and Nellore. So this is the second major initiative. Then, of course, number of islands to be developed and some coastal circuits also to be developed, ferry circuits to be developed. So like this, there are 14 major initiatives which are planned in the vision document, which is very soon going to be presented by the shipping ministry to the honorable prime minister, and then the regular work on that will be starting. So I have only I want to say that the potential is huge. COVID has stopped everything, but for COVID also we had prepared a plan of having uh, mm, cruise ships as safe havens. So anybody going inside should show a negative report and immediately take a negative report, and then we go enter that. That is very, very important, because what I've seen in recently, some cruises started in another country, and again COVID started there. So it is very risky unless this thing is done. Uh, when I was there, uh, our thinking was that by 30th October or by 1st November, the regular cruises will start. Let's see how it moves. This is that month where if it falls, then the cruises are going to start. If the COVID keeps going up the way it has been going, then I'm not very sure that it will start on 1st of November. Maybe it'll get delayed by another month or two. But the rest of the steps like LTC being allowed, you are already experimenting with marriages. In fact, I was speaking to Nalini the other day. Uh, every girl now wants to get married on the cruise. In fact, my daughter was telling me that is the cheapest thing. Please, I want to get married on a cruise. So Ratna, please note that every girl now wants to get married on a cruise. So use that potential. And I'm telling from practical experience.
Very heartening to hear. Very, very heartening.
Anyone, she was telling all her friends also because it's quite reasonable. Only thing is you need to restrict the number of guest list. You would not more than 150. It will not be affordable. So in fact, at my residence right now, they're trying to restrict it from 150 to 100, so that the expenses are can be met. But cruise is the first destination. So
Great.
similar thing I think is every household, as long as this COVID stops and you can make it safe havens. I think marriages, offsites of corporate people are bursting to go out. I'm telling you, because everybody's been sitting at home. They if there is a safe haven and a holiday, they're going to jump at it. So we have only thing is that like we discussed in our group meeting, ministry has to now come up with an institutional mechanism, permanent mechanism to oversee the whole cruise tourism potential, cruise tourism roadmap. And I understand that that is going on, and that's part of the vision document which they will be doing. Of course, somebody has to take over from me as the champion for pushing it. So I'm sure somebody, two, three officers have taken the initiative, and it will be moving forward. Inland waterways is also there. People are pushing there. So this is what I wanted to brief in the beginning. And Pradeep, I hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable words. Indeed, it would be a dream for all of us to visit ports like Diu and Porbandar, which otherwise, like for example, Somnath is so difficult to reach Somnath, and if I could cruise to Somnath, nothing like that. For the COVID solution, sir, like a few countries have done antigen as an instant test of COVID for on arrivals. I'm sure India can also devise a way where an instant test can be done for COVID before they start boarding the domestic cruises, and we can quick start the cruising industry based in India as well. So instant COVID test is very much doable. And the wedding, yes, sir, it's a very big market, very big spenders, and I'm sure all the cruise companies get their smiles on their face when we talk of a wedding on the ship. And obviously, we've been part of organizing a few of them. So I now bring on the discussion back to our panelists, where I would first want to bring in Ratna. Ratna, I want to understand from you that cruise obviously has been one of the worst hit, first hit we can say, because when the ships in Hong Kong were affected. But looking at it, there has been a lot of negative media on it. Coming back to reality, what do you see? How do you see the future unfolding for this segment? Because we realize there are means and ways where cruising can be as safe as anything like a train or a flight journey. So, how do you think the future will unfold for our segment, the cruise segment? Ratna.
Yeah. Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you very much. And thank you, Murari and Pallavi and the entire team to put this together. I think you've done a commendable job. Okay, coming to the question. Firstly, we must understand, and I think we need to communicate this to the world at large, that the cruise business or cruise ships were not the cause or the source of the infection. Remember, it didn't start from the cruise ships. What happened was that it was just badly managed, and the media blew that out of proportion. Now, the cruise lines at that stage were not willing to tackle the media or to give their justify anything, because at that point the entire world was getting gripped under this pandemic. But I think the time now has come for us to communicate to the world at large that cruising by far is probably the safest way to vacation, because with all the SOPs in place, and I don't need to repeat this again, but with once you're on board the ship and you've actually bubbled the entire service, the supply chain, there's no way that anyone can get an infection. And even if they do fall prey to any slight infection, there are backups, and there are SOPs in place to take care of that. So it doesn't mean that every time a person sneezes, the entire industry has to go under. And that's what's been happening actually. And we've been hurt, we've been hurt from that first instance, and we have not been able to come back yet or rebound yet, because we are still battling with governments and CDC in the US, and bubble situations, which I'm sure we'll overcome. And the governments themselves are in a justified in doing what they are. But like Sanjay Bhatia ji just said, that India itself has so much potential. We really don't need to look outside. Let's look within. Let's create our own bubble within. We've got enough people. India is so diverse and has so much potential, which he's just enumerated. I don't need to see any more. Let's create our own SOPs, create our own bubbles. We don't need international travel yet. If they can't come in, of course, we'll welcome them. But let's create our own domestic market, and probably communicate. I think communication and awareness is the key currently. And the reason why we don't have cruising as a high enough category in our consideration for a vacation is because we don't have that many brands flying within India. Hopefully that will change now with all the innovations that the government and the cruise lines are bringing in. Hopefully, we'll see that the demand will grow. It's just a question of demand. India is ready actually to take on the cruise business. We just have to create that demand. That's all that I.
Nalini, sorry, yeah. Nalini, your views of this about the media impact on the cruise industry overall, and also then what do you see future for unfolding for us?
Firstly, good afternoon, everybody. Wonderful to be back in action mode in terms of talking about my pet subject, cruising. I almost feel passionate about it. So coming to your question, and to a large extent endorsing a lot of what Ratna has said. Actually, the impact of the recent virus has not only been felt by the cruising industry, but the travel industry as a whole. Every business vertical under the travel industry, be it airline, hotel, transport companies, everybody has got impacted. And the media did, to a large extent, exaggerate a lot of things when it came to first talking about Princess Diamond in January, only because one, the virus was new to us, two, it was on a cruise ship, and the media did what it did to get all the eyeballs. But more importantly, what is important to see is what is happening post that. Post, over the last 6-7 weeks, being at home, a kind of a fear psychosis has come in where people are scared to go out. So what is the travel industry doing? Everybody, be it the airline, hotels, or for that matter, even the cruise liners, they are putting safety protocols in place to ensure there's insurance, there are antigen tests, there are the whole process of cruising, the whole format is changed for the new normal, in a way addressing the fear of the customers to ensure that they feel comfortable to go back to cruising. And like Sanjay ji said, everybody wants to get married on a cruise liner. He's our first candidate, actually, Ratna. His daughter wants to get married, and so does my daughter want to get married on a cruise ship. So there are a lot of people they're actually seeing the ship as a cruise heaven, a sterile place where they can go and have all the fun in the world. So I think there are baby steps being taken right now. Actually, on 6th September, Casa Deliziosa had its first sailing at Italian ports. Done it all through the month, almost a month now. Costa Diadema started a little later after that. So there are ships getting introduced at various ports, baby steps being taken, but I do believe that by next year we will see a lot more activity in the ocean, so to say. So as always, I'm very optimistic.
Yes, Nalini, bring in this optimism for all of us. Everybody who is listening out here. So Gautam, you're obviously on the government side, and we want to understand. We realize, we all accept the fact that the government is doing a lot. The government of India is doing a lot to give a thrust to the cruise tourism in India. We talk a lot of the initiatives, like Bhatia ji also told us, and a lot of initiatives are happening. But really, is lot of happening on the ground? Do you really think a public partnership is the way ahead, where you need local players to partner with the government to bring this about? How can we achieve this? Whatever is on the paper, what is your way ahead to achieve this? Gautam.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep. And yeah, you're like what is happening on the ground. Yes, ground, lot of stuffs have happened. Actually, as Mr. Bhatia had explained some time ago in his keynote address, and of course, all the stakeholders here also stand witness to it, that when we started in 2016 and where we are in 2020 are the two benchmarks. Now, if we see, tremendous things have done in infrastructure basis, on regulatory processes basis. These are the two most important elements that can make handling of a cruise ship a seamless experience or otherwise. On both this front, government has started with a big bang, and it has been showing on the ground also. Like if I recall, 2016 came the uh, Genting Dream, Genting Dream to Mumbai, and it was to embark some 1,100 or 1,500 passengers. And believe me, there was no embarkation hall, there was no terminal, so that to check in these passengers. And with Mr. Bhatia then as chairman, we took a very bold decision, and we converted a whole garage of Mumbai Port Trust into a temporary terminal for check-in facilities. From there to the today, where in fact more than 2,000 passengers can get checked in a in a while in our cruise terminal itself. So there is a lot much has happened in this 4 years, less than 4 years. On infrastructure side, there are huge projects have been set up on the ground. It takes long, as you know, infrastructure project. In fact, our cruise terminal could have been operational partially this year end, but COVID intervened and everything is getting delayed by 1 more year. In all five ports, there is a lot of groundwork has taken place, and I am sure the infrastructure development will attract more cruise ships, and the passengers will get better experiences each day as we cross into 21-22. Now, coming to another thing that you had asked is the whether PPP with the private players, with the participation of the private players. Yes. In fact, in one of my slides, I had explained that there are more than some 12 stakeholders with who are involved in the handling of the cruise ship. And if all this, out of this, there are about 6 who are completely in private sector, like cruise company, then shipping agent, the destination management companies, the transport operators, then guides. So all of them play a very important role in their own way to make this one single thing that a passenger, that a cruiser gets satisfied from his journey in Indian ports. We have here partnered with a lot of all these agencies, and yes, at every port, this process has begun with a interactive committee meeting where various stakeholders are also there. So I think this PPP is really happening on the ground. So these two things will definitely make the cruising very satisfying experience for all these stakeholders.
Thank you, Gautam. Really speaking, the more we developed our relationship with all these private players and the port running full-fledged, the 5 ports, and like Bhatia said, the number of ports are now going to increase, which we are developing, will definitely create a lot of employment opportunities, not a lot of people who will service these cruisers, not only on the ships but on the ground as well before they actually board and come out and etc. Like you said, the DMCs and transporters and lot of people get additional employment of what is the current situation. Sanjay Basu, to give us a separate, different perspective, let's talk a bit about the river cruising. What do you think is the potential for river cruising, Sanjay, in terms of the buying capacity, or you really think this will ignite the market? Because with river cruising, and we have one of the few of the biggest and the most volatile rivers in the world, in the sense the longest rivers in the world, and big population chunk around those rivers. So you think we can really look at developing river cruising also in India, and there is a potential as a seller? You think it is?
Thanks, Pradeep. India is a land with civilizations that came up along the rivers. And we have 7 major rivers and 105 minor rivers. And along the rivers, be it the Ganges, the Ganga, or the Brahmaputra, or the Kerala backwaters, or even the Narmada and Godavari and various other rivers, we have so many monuments, so much cultural diversity, and so much nature. Sailing down the Brahmaputra, we operate a ship on the Brahmaputra and in the Kerala backwaters, and sailing down the Brahmaputra, you in a clear day, you are seeing over 7,000-meter high snow-covered Himalayan mountains, and you're sailing through the Kaziranga National Park, seeing rhinos and elephants and even occasionally tigers as you sail by. And then, of course, you have rivers like the Ganga, where you have so much of India's history, culture. And then when you go into the Kerala backwaters, which is a waterways which combines lakes, lagoons, rivers, and canals, you have such a diversity of waterfronts and waterways that India offers actually a river cruise destination which is unparalleled. And with the initiative that the government of India took along with Bangladesh government, you can sail right from Varanasi down to Calcutta, crossing the whole of Bangladesh, the Sundarbans, the greatest mangrove jungles of the world, up the height of Bangladesh and into Assam right up to Dibrugarh. Possibly the longest river cruise route that exists on Earth. It would be twice the length of the combination of the Danube and the Rhine in Europe. So really, we can be the capital of river cruising if we can get our infrastructure put in place, the jetties, the river ports, get our dredging more organized and made reliable so that the navigation channels are more reliable, and bring in facilities for things like night navigation, because there are a lot of distances where one would prefer to do a night navigation because there's not so much to see, and get the travelers to destinations where there is a lot to see during the daytime. And the combination of our culture, monumental assets, and the national parks and the nature that we can see, I think this country is unique. Also, the major destinations for river cruising in the world, like for example Europe, that's a summer destination, and our river cruising is a winter destination. We complement the rest of the world of river cruising, and we actually can make this industry a 12-month industry by just making this as a highlighted experience in the world. So lots of potential, lot of the discerning cruise travelers are now moving into rivers because they like the small ships, which are more exclusive, more luxury, more intimate, more personalized. And then you're seeing places every day. The river cruise experience tends to be more outward looking rather than inward looking into a ship. You are seeing destinations, stepping off the ship every day, going and having experiences. So it's a lot more experiential. There are adventures to be done, safaris to be done. This is really something that India really needs to focus a lot on to.
Thank you, Sanjay. Really speaking, if you look at it that way, if there has to be a river cruising in the winters in India and the spiritual routes that we have on the Ganges and the other rivers, I would want to believe how many foreigners we can attract also on these ships, because obviously the ships are going to come from somewhere in Europe or the Egypt or elsewhere, and how many foreigners we can attract in terms of foreign tourist attraction for this kind of spiritual tourism, which is completely new segment. And we also remember we also have that large population. Nalini, I want to ask you, 1.3 billion people in India, about 25 million people traveling abroad, and the international cruisers are only about 220,000. So you really think bringing the cruising closer to home will only increase the cruisers in India, give them the first-hand experience, and then probably grow the international market also for you guys? Don't, as a cruise company, you think only bits and pieces is being done by all the international players to bring in their ships on a more regular basis? I realize Costa is coming here for a few years, but being more focused on the Indian market per se and bring in local cruising in India, basing them so many ports in India now with so much of diversity. Nalini, you think there's an opportunity for all international cruise companies?
This actually is, I've said this very often, so I'm repeating myself here, saying that India is a low-hanging fruit for the cruise industry of the world. The market is sitting here ready to be serviced, so to say. So in that sense, I think, while we say we have only 220,000 cruisers, we actually constitute just 0.07% of the cruise industry. So while we look very small, with 28 million passengers as a market size of the cruise industry, we look very small, but I look at it positively, thinking that this is this huge opportunity in front of us. So what can initially, the first year when CASA came in 2016, we just had 20 to 30% of the passengers were Indian. The balance were all Europeans. But as we went forward, I had to take more capacity because the demand for Indian went higher and higher. And also a lot of it was just word of mouth. We didn't do any focus marketing, nothing at all. It was just experienced travelers referring us and asking for more business, more experiences. So coming back to your first question of whether the potential is there, the potential is huge. Would CASA want to come here often? I think, like ourselves, all the other cruise liners would also like to come here. But I think it's just not a matter of the ship coming here. It's also a matter of a lot of other things which go into place, which I think is now happening. Like Mr. Sanjay Bhatia just indicated initially, where he talked about more ports becoming available. From 5, you're moving to 12. Similarly, you are focusing, the government is focusing on theme-based excursion points. So therefore, even if you have a 1.6 billion domestic cruisers, domestic passengers who could be your potential cruisers, they also need a reason to travel. So when the government is taking upon itself to find heritage circuits, finding theme-based options, then in that case, you're sitting with a situation where everybody is working in tandem to make the industry big. How did USA become so big? It's only because about 40, 50 years ago, when they started cruising, they brought ships home. There were ships across the ocean where they could see it. So essentially, your domestic passenger becomes your biggest contributor to numbers. So if you really want the number to grow, you need to have more and more ships coming to ports of India, home porting in India. And I think all international cruise liners are looking at India very closely. And I think I'm going forwards with all the initiatives being taken by the government, things will definitely look up for all of us in terms of increasing numbers. But what have the international cruise liners located in India done? We have even formed INCLA. INCLA is also an association to say we are working in tandem to make sure the government understands what international cruise liners are looking for, or cruise liners are looking for. So I think everybody is doing their respective contributions to ensure India can actually become this big fish in the cruising market. And it's like you can't just get a cruise liner to do its bit. I think everybody needs to marry, and there are lots of stakeholders in this. Like you would have in a tourism board. If Singapore tourism wants to promote Singapore, they bring their airline connectivity, they bring their different excursion points, get everybody to tie in. I see that happening now. And in fact, not now, I see that happening last 4-5 years under the able leadership of Sanjay ji and of course Gautam and of course the Mantri ji. I think Mr. Nitin Gadkari and now the current Mantri ji completely understand this opportunity. So I think we all are in a good place right now. And I think once cruising starts, it just won't be a small growth, there'll be an exponential growth only because like everybody understands the market is waiting to go into a holiday mode and they all want a place where precautions are taken, safety protocols are in place, and at the same time they can enjoy themselves. So I think things are happening at the right place right now, and things there is a huge positive outlook for me in terms of the cruising business.
Ask me really, India has a great potential to be the winter hub for all the cruise companies in the world. Summers they are all occupied and busy, but winter times they all face some kind of challenges, and India gives them a perfect destination to bring their ships in India during the winter time, which is low for them but peak for us. Also complements us because we can also attract a lot of foreign tourists coming to India for the cruising purpose, leave alone the river cruises we were talking about, but also the ocean cruises. So I think all the cruise companies in the world should look at India as a ready market and a market for their low season, which is obviously peak season for us. Ratna, I now come back to you to understand post-COVID. How do you think we can generate the customer confidence? What are the parameters the customer looks at and which will work and won't work? What do you say about this? How does this go? How do we bring the customer confidence back to all the cruisers, potential cruisers that we talk about?
Yeah, before I jump into this question, can I just add to what Nalini
Obviously,
said?
yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. The first thing is that if you look at China's growth in the tourism market, you would see that the cruise lines positioned their ships the brands were positioned in their country before cruising took off. And from 300,000, they went to 3 million passengers that cruised out of China. The reason was that all their policies and procedures were in place because it was a single window clearance. In India, we had to struggle a bit, but again, like Nalini said, with Sanjay Bhatia ji and Gautam and the rest of them who worked really diligently, we have now come to that point where we can make this happen. If you look at China, their main this thing was that they only had they had a home port and that was it. The cruise ships went out of the country. If you look at their itinerary, you'll see that they home ported out of Shanghai or Tianjin, which is near Beijing, and they were sailing to the neighboring countries, which is Japan, Taiwan, Korea, and the like. So Chinese were traveling to these countries. India is in a very, very unique position where we have multi-ports to offer. So if we have an infrastructure and the infra is in place with domestic, with the international terminals, like they are saying, the port terminals, once a ship is home ported out of any of these ports, they can do multi destinations within the country, and that goes well with the domestic and the foreigners. We don't know how long this is going to take to clear out, but if the foreigners are not there, so be it. We've got our own domestic market to develop. So India was low hanging and is still low hanging. We have to now raise the level there. That's what I wanted to add to what Nalini said. Okay, coming back to your question of how to instigate customer confidence. That's the core of our industry now. I mean, we can have all the SOPs in place, we can have all the infrastructure in place, we can have all of the clearances and all of that, but if we don't have customer confidence post COVID, then I'm sorry, the business just may not take off, and that's not a very good thing because we need to instigate the domestic market. So I think there are about 4 or 5 drivers that could lead to this. The first is the financial activity. And by financial activity, I mean that today the customer cost is not a consideration. The value proposition is. So what is it that we are putting in place to increase that value quotient for the customer, for him to believe in us and say, okay, this seems like something that it's a compulsive offer. We need to start working on that quotient. The second is the health concerns. Obviously, health has taken precedence over a lot of things. So you, from your not just self evolving, but community evolving. We've got to have health concerns and health SOPs in place where we can show the customer that irrespective of what they do, they are safe and they are contained to the safety norms that we have on our cruise ships, at our destinations, at our ports, at the ground level. For example, people were talking about sustenance. Now, you've got the airlines who are doing so much as far as the safety is concerned. But what happens when a guy gets out of the airport and gets into a taxi? Who's taking care of that? Who's accountable for that till he gets to the hotel? So in between that airport and the hotel, there may be a gap that we've left behind. We need to close all the gaps and show the customer that he is safe in our environment. The third is the loneliness syndrome. People, the whole world has got digitized. There is no face to face, as we can see here. We are human beings. We need to connect. We need to have that feeling of being associated with someone. Your body language, the way you speak, the way you handle yourself when you're talking to a person face to face is very different. You can't do that on a Zoom or WebEx, in my opinion. However, I mean, currently this is the only way, and that's probably the best way. So we've got to remove that loneliness syndrome from the minds of our customers and bring them together, even if it's on Zoom. Create communities, create content, create visuals. I don't know what, but I'm just saying that there's so much that we can do now to bring people together and have that feeling. If you're on a webinar the whole day, which some people are, I'm sure, in the industry, because the industry is reeling under so much stress, the whole day just goes by without even you feeling that you're lonely if you're living alone. And there are a lot of people who are living on their own. So it just creates that, feeling of bonhomie. The fourth thing is the quest for truth. We False news, this news, that news is all passe now. We need to get to the bottom of it and communicate to our customer our entire intent in a truthful manner, to say this is what our assembly line is, this is what our cold storage SOP is, this is how our supply chain is going to work, that from the time you step on to into the port till the time you are ready to leave, it's all covered. We've got to be truthful to the customer, not just to the customer, with ourselves first. We've got to be satisfied with what we are putting out is in the true intent, and with true intensity, so that the customer's confidence is raised. The fourth thing is to get rid of the safety fears. I mean, that's the fifth thing, to get rid of the safety fears, because that's the most important mindset. We can, maybe involve an insurance company, involve a medical company, to tell people that you're insured. If, should God forbid, if something happens, you are still covered. If there is an emergency, we have medical help that can be brought to the fore. We've just got to create that customer confidence in the service that we provide. Not just we, I mean, it's probably for the entire industry, and the entire industry is working at it, I know, diligently. But we've got to communicate this. There is no communication thus far telling a customer that, hello guys, except for the fact that the Prime Minister said that every Indian must visit 15 destinations within India. There is no other communication yet. Maybe we are not ready. Maybe that will come as the next phase. So we get involved with media, PR, social, digital, and create this customer confidence. There's no point in telling a customer now that our ships are 120,000 tons. That's the gross tonnage, and we have so many pools, and we have so many restaurants, and we have so many bars. That's all over. He doesn't want to know this. We've got to tell him what he needs to know. How safe is he going to be? How are the norms going to be will be followed? When he gets over a destination, what's going to happen? What happens if should he or his family member falls ill? He needs to know this. We've got to change the level of our conversation. And the last point is that as an industry, we need to adapt, innovate, and evolve. We've got to be quick on our feet and nimble footed so that we change with the whatever the change that is required and quickly. And we have shown that resilience, that we have shown that we are resilient, and we have shown that tenacity to do so. And if we do that and communicate effectively, I think the customer confidence will come back to the fore, because if that does not happen, then let me tell you that all of these scheduled ships, cruise ships that we have, starting from the 1st of November for Jalesh, and when Costa is coming in, they will not see any traction. That's not good for the industry. So we just have to do this.
Thank you, Ratna. I guess, like what you said, there has to be a value proposition for the customers, something like on the basis of cruise again. I've seen so many five-star luxury palace hotels and Goa hotels and things giving fantastic offers, fantastic value adds, not really the price, but the kind of inclusions these people are giving is really bringing on the people. And I know of so many hotels that are completely sold out for the next couple of months. Value proposition, yes, and health concern. If we could do that immediate antigen test before COVID test before we start boarding, it's doable now, and maybe more doable in a couple of months, I'm sure. And obviously, the communication on the safety and the insurance of the customers, that's a paramount thing. Every cruiser would want to currently get. But yes, short cruises within the coastline of India is very much on the radar at the horizon right now. A lot of weekend holiday resorts are getting completely sold out every weekend, weekend after weekend. So I'm sure cruising can also start ASAP based on these few things that Ratna has highlighted. I'm very glad you actually brought in point wise. So then obviously it's common knowledge to all of us that this is the real way ahead. Coming back to you, Gautam, really we know the government is working on the port infra. We know things are moving. As cruise companies or as the companies who are proposing to bring in ships in India, what are they supposed to be doing? What should be immediate steps that you as the on the government on the port side and the operators on the private side bringing in their ships should really do immediately right now?
Yes, that's very important thing here. Uh, First thing is a COVID plan. We have, with extensive discussion with the INCLA, representative body, uh, and of course Jalesh Cruises and Angria Cruises, we have developed one SOP, which is to make cruise ship a safe haven, and a cruise port like Mumbai, Goa, or wherever they go, those are also to be equally, compatibly safe and secure. Not only that, uh, even to bring them from their residences to the destination is also a part of the entire SOP. So this SOP is developed after a lot of discussion, and I'm sure this SOP will also help in instilling confidence, which was the question perhaps Ratna has responded very well. So uh, this SOP is also put in place. All the international cruise lines as well as our domestic cruise lines can, of course, further add to this if some more processes are to be added to it. What immediate steps to be taken? Government has started. First of all, government thought that it is very important to bring the cruisers and cruise ships back in the ports, and for that, very daring approach is taken for reducing the cost of ships in the port. Government has reduced the cost, the tariff in the port by more than 50-60%. Its impact this year. So once this reduction in the cost is also percolates down to the cruise lines, and the cruise line further passes it on to the customers, as you said, the many five-star guest hotels, they have given deep discounts and they are booked. Similarly, these cruisers will be enticed to these ships, and of course, government not only as for SOP to be in place, but also side by side infrastructure development is also going on. So maybe by the time I think as Inkla and as Jalesh is trying to put it, the cruise may begin from 12th January. That is the date we are also closely working, and so matching facilities we are also trying to develop in ports, and we should be well equipped by then. So I think that is the immediate steps. If you stimulate demand, the port, and I can assure you, the port and the government are more than willing to support it in any manner it can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Gautam. I'm sure the agent community is listening to you and is more than prepared and excited to get the demand stimulated. And January is the right time when we really think we'll be out of the whole COVID mess and we'll be prepared, well prepared to take care of our customers, give them confidence, give them a reason to cruise. Because I'm trust me, like everybody's agreeing to the fact that everybody just want to go out of their houses, go on a holiday, go on a vacation, and what better than a cruise vacation in a bubble kind of a closed environment. So, Sanjay, I need to ask you a question. Dwarka, right on the west, to Kolkata, to Konar, Kolkata on the east. Such a large coastline we are blessed with as India, and meaning really speaking, we could do so many other things. But you really think we can develop the segment from this end to that end, maybe a 7 night cruise on a smaller shape where kind of use more of our coastline to get a so-called a Bharat Mala cruise done from Sikona, so Dwarka right up to Kolkata? You really think there's a market to this which we can develop?
So, Mediterranean became famous not just because of the big ships that were coming there. What made the Asian Sea in Greece and what made most of Mediterranean become really famous was the small ships that were going to the small ports, the small destinations, which were really highlight destinations from a cultural point of view or nature point of view. And because that's more intimate, it's a smaller number of people, it tends to go deeper into the destinations, and the country earns a lot more through that. Because the ships are completely not only home porting, but they're also homebound for the entire program. So be it a 7 nights cruise or be it a 17 nights cruise, the entire cruise is in the country. Every rupee and every dollar that the customer spends is coming into India, and it is reaching the grassroots, to the communities, to the industry. And what happens is the country develops its own cruise industry. It starts to build its own cruise ships. It starts to have its own cruise operators, and they are giving employment to Indians basically. So, from an economic model point of view, the coastal cruising, the river cruising, is a more benefit to the country. B, it is also a higher value of cruising. A big ship, for example, might spend $40-50 per person on a shore excursion, but the major part of the revenue really goes to the cruise ship operator, which might be a foreign company. In the case of river cruising and coastal cruising, the $40-50 becomes $200-250 to $700 per person per night, and all the money comes into the country. And then India, 7,000 kilometers, like you mentioned, Dwarka, Somnath, down the coast of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala, and then up, Rameshwaram, Mahabalipuram, and then on to, Konark and Puri and Calcutta, and so many destinations in the middle. It has so much to offer. Now, when you add neighboring countries, which are coastal countries or islands, for example, Sri Lanka or Myanmar or Bangladesh, and then you add our islands, Lakshadweep and Andaman Islands, you possibly have a 14-15,000 kilometer long cruise destination. People, be it Indians or be it foreigners, they will actually come and do this in segments. It'll be repeat travelers, repeat visits, and every dollar and rupee will be spent in the country itself. I foresee if we can just build quays and jetties at every temple, fort, and national park, or a beautiful destination along the coastline and along the rivers, we might be a country where within the next 5 years we might have 500 cruise ships with 100 to 200 or 300 cabins each operating, because for the coast you need smaller ships because the waters are more shallow. And with smaller ships, what happens is the value of the holiday goes up because it's more exclusive. It's not a mass tourism product; it's a more
Understand, yeah.
exclusive product.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Sanjay. But I really think something like this would really stimulate the employment and the economy in the smaller port of calls. I've been to few ports in Greece on a cruise ship, which otherwise I could never have gone. Like port like Patmos with a population of 6,000, and there are so many cruise ships going there. Similarly, the islands of Greece like Mykonos, Santorini, etc., roads and stuff. So yes, this is very much doable, but I think this has to really wait till the time the bigger ports get their traffic, and then we get this niche kind of travel as well. So now let's move on to something little more fun. We've been too serious for the last hour or so. So let's do a quick fire question now, where we need to know your personal choices in a few things. So I'll ask a question where we start with Ratna, then go up to Nalini, Gautam. Everybody has to unmute yourself, and then to Gautam, and then to Sanjay, and then to Bhatia sir. I would love if Bhatia sir could also reply to these simple questions. So these are more of your personal choices. So the order is Ratna, Nalini, Gautam, Sanjay, and Bhatia sir. So everybody please unmute yourself. So my first question goes to all of you is, what is your favorite cruise hub? This is just one word answers. Your favorite cruise hub. Ratna.
Sorry, cruise what?
Your favorite cruise port of, as in cruise hub, port of call.
Oh, cruise hub, the Caribbean.
Caribbean. Nalini?
Savona, the entry to the
Samona.
Mediterranean.
Okay, Gautam?
Mumbai, Goa.
My God. Okay, Sanjay? He is in love with his work, yeah. Sanjay?
I'm a bit of an adventurer, so I'll say the Antarctica.
Antarctica. Bhatia, sir?
Wow.
Goa. Okay. So the next question, other than your own ship, now this is a catch question. Other than your own ship, what is the most favorite ship? This especially goes for Nalini and Ratna. So other than your own ship, which is your other favorite cruise ship in the world, and why?
For me, Windstar, which is the much smaller. It's got sails. It
Okay.
works with sails. That smaller, goes into very remote areas and is very, very personalized. Not more than 150 people.
Super. Nalini?
I've enjoyed being on Queen Mary. It
Okay,
makes me
wow.
feel the queen I am.
Oh, wow, you are. Of course you are. Queen of our trade, for sure. Okay, Gautam?
Karnika.
Karnika. Okay. Sanjay?
Well, I love the Lindblad three-mast sail ships, which are also motorized, and they're expedition-style cruises which go into islands and Galapagos and Antarctica and these places.
Okay, the smaller version of all. Sanjay, Bhatia, sir?
I love that river cruise like Sanjay Basu's ship. It was a small ship, it was a small group, and they were taking us to small destinations. So that
Very intimate and personalized. Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Bhatia.
Okay. So the next question, Ratna, for you is, once travel begins, what is the first thing you want to do?
Get out.
Get out what?
Get out there.
Okay. Nalini?
While I would like to say what Ratna said, I would actually like to regroup my team, my office staff, regroup them and start working again. Because we have given so many such phenomenal experiences to people through cruising. I like to go through that again. And I've got a very woman-dominated team. I love to get them back and work again with that passion.
Gautam?
I would
First
like
thing
to
after them.
Goa. I would like to go to Goa.
Goa. Okay. Sanjay?
Well, I would love to get my two vessels in Brahmaputra and in Kerala going again soon, and get the project on to do more rivers in India.
Okay, Bhatia sir?
As soon as the COVID ends and the cruise start, I get my daughter married on a cruise.
Wow. Wow, wow.
That's
But really
that's cause for
speaking,
a clap.
Great.
yeah. But really speaking, all of us, the first thing we should do is we should start traveling. I'm sorry, I don't agree with Nalini. We should start traveling ourselves, our teams, and give more confidence to our customers who look upon us, to give them that kind of confidence as yes, travel is now become safer. Okay, so
Pradeep, I'm already in London, so I've
London,
already
I know,
traveled and will be traveling
I
into
know.
Europe soon to do a cruise in Europe.
So yeah, please get us on your social media so that we get that confidence along with you. Okay, Ratna, I want to know one thing you learned in lockdown, and brief, two, three, 4 words maximum. Ratna, one thing you learned out of the lockdown.
Don't treat it as an opportunity. Don't treat it as an obituary. Treat it as an opportunity.
Okay, opportunity to bond with your family, friends, and things you
Anything,
never could do.
anything.
Yeah. Okay,
Evolve in life,
evolve yourself. Yeah.
introspect, innovate, anything.
Nalini.
I think it has brought forward the element of prioritizing. One is prioritize, reinvent, and respond calmly.
Fantastic. Be
There's
calm and
there's no fire.
composed. Yeah. Gautam.
Health, family, work. These are the three things.
Wow. Sanjay.
I think in every challenge lies an opportunity. As a company, we used to be focused purely on international travelers coming to India. I think we've been woken up to the importance of the domestic market, and we've started focusing a lot in development of that, which today will be a savior, and then tomorrow will be an addition to what we used to do. So I would say,
Okay.
yes, in every challenge, there's an opportunity, and we're trying to take that in the domestic market.
Okay, fantastic. It was supposed to be 3 words, so it has to be opportunity in every challenge. Okay, Bhatia sir.
But I would do like Sanjay Basu, two things, but two sentences each.
Okay, sir, please.
The first thing is that during the COVID period, what we have learned is like Mumbai port went in for e-office, which it would not have done if COVID had not come. So total port and majority of the ports are now working on e-office, and computerization is moving much faster. So it's a huge
Okay.
which because of the emergency they have gone in. Second, personally, I was able to go deeper into meditation and go a little further and further into spirituality.
Very good. Super, sir. Otherwise, आपके busy schedule में you could never have found this kind of time, I'm sure. But this has given us an opportunity to evolve ourselves. Next, last 2 questions only. So,
Pradeep, I think Pradeep is disconnected.
Frozen. Did something happen?
Yeah. So just wait for a minute and then. In the meanwhile, we have 2 questions from audience. We had a very good audience. At one point of time, we had 577 people, and the final count would be around 850 to 900. Some
Wow.
Wow, good.
So
Excellent.
for both the sessions altogether, as per 230, we had 1815 attendees for both the sessions. So audience is very supportive. I am taking 2 questions from the audience. One question is for Mr. Basu. Mr. Basu, the question is, why aren't we promoting enough the river cruises in India? There are some companies which are already operating, but it's not marketed well. Not the agent community has much information about it. Over to you, Mr. Basu.
I think it was a new sector in Indian tourism. And like anything new, it takes a little time for it to start to catch on. But I would really like to recommend that the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, and the Ministry of Shipping, if they can highlight the potential of cruising, river, coastals, ocean within the country, I think that would be really important, because your own domestic market can be the greatest foundation for the industry to build itself and bring even the international markets in. So far, we've relied more on the international markets, but I think the domestic market is something that we really need to develop. So far, it's only looked at the big ships, but I think the small ship experience is something that needs to be, they need to be educated on that.
Thank you. Thank you. The other question is for Nalini and Mr. Da. If there is so much potential, are we connecting with international cruise liners to start new itineraries from India?
Sorry, what
I
was
didn't
that?
get. I didn't get the question.
If there is so much potential here for the cruise market in India, are we connecting with international cruise liners to start new itineraries from India?
Yeah. Nalini, you go first?
Yes, I'm willing to go first. In fact, itineraries will also depend on the port infrastructure. So right now, while we have good, reasonably nice ports in Bombay, Mangalore, Cochin, we have in Goa, we have itineraries covering these ports. As more and more ports get developed, be it on the East Coast, I do believe Andamans and Chennai will also be an opportunity. So when those ports get developed, ships will go where the opportunities are in terms of customer base and where the infrastructure is available. So the reason we have not gone to the East Coast as yet is because the port infrastructure is not really that easy to handle right now. So itineraries will be framed based on port infrastructure, besides the market being able to attract that kind of customer base.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, it's a chicken and egg situation. If we have everything in place that is encompassing for these cruise lines to come in, and a compulsive must do, they will come, because the cruise lines are starved as well. Please understand that there are new ships being built, or at least pre-COVID, and I'm sure it will go forward as well. Every year there are at least 2 or 3 new ships, brand new ships that are coming out of the shipyards. They need to have newer destinations. After all, how much of the US can they do? It's saturated now. I mean, their economy, their saturation point, their demand, it's at a point. It probably will not accelerate to the extent that the cruise lines expect them to. Europe, it's the same situation. China is overdone now. So what is left? It's India. We are saying this is our time. Let's wake up and let's get these brands in here and have a robust system where everything works hand in hand, which of course it's very easily said than done, but it's happening. The government is doing their best. The cruise lines will also start coming in, and they have to look at India. There is no other option. There is no other option.
Thank you. The next question is for Mr. Bhatia. How do you see the future of cruise tourism in the next 3 to 5 years in India?
You know, if this COVID had not come, even linking to that earlier question, lot of other cruise liners were approaching us and they were going to start the ships here. So the potential, you can see the demand is huge. Cruise liners were very, very keen to come. As soon as this COVID thing gets over, I think it will restart. The whole thing will restart. And in the vision document which the Ministry of Shipping has prepared, they are aiming at 1,000 ships coming here. They have said in the next 10 years, but if you take the right steps, in 3 years we went from 40 to 230 in Mumbai. So if you take the right steps, this 1,000 can be achieved in the next 4 or 5 years.
Thank you, sir. Over to you, Pradeep.
Ji, sir.
Yeah.
So I just had last 2 questions of the quick fire left. I just lost communication for a brief while. So Ratna, this starts again the same order. Starts with you. Describe yourself in just 3 words. You as a person in 3 words.
Passionate.
Yes.
I just need one word.
Wow.
Explains it. Passionate.
Explains everything. Yeah. Okay. So everything you do is you do it with all the passion. Nalini?
I would call myself fearless, passionate, of course, and also very content and happy.
Fantastic. That's four, and it says everything. Gautam,
Just do it.
sorry.
Just do it.
Okay, just do it. Okay, just do it. Okay, good. Sanjay.
Seeker of adventures.
Okay,
I like to seek adventures, especially linked to nature.
fantastic. So nature lover, yeah. Bhatia sir,
Spiritual seeker.
spiritual seeker. Okay, and the last one. I mean, this has to be really interesting for all of you. If you have to trade your life for one day with anyone in the world, anyone living or dead in the world for one day, who would it be and why? Ratna.
I'm reading about Michelle Obama's biography, and I think it would be her. And
Okay.
why? Because she went through so much adversity when her husband was standing as the president, and how she went through protecting her family, her kids, her husband, herself, her community, her country was amazing, amazing. So much
Fantastic.
tenacity, so much tenacity.
Okay, super. Nalini?
You know, it's so strange, Pradeep. I did think of Michelle Obama because I'd also finished reading her biography. But I then, Richard Branson kind of, it was a competition between the two of them. And I think it will be Richard Branson because
Wow.
I like the way he lives his life with gay abandon, fearlessly just going ahead.
Super.
So it is Richard Branson.
Gautam?
I would like to be Jaggi Vasudevan.
Okay.
Nice.
Sanjay?
Can I have the option of just being myself?
Wow, that's the best you can. Of course you can. Super. भाटिया सर, कुछ बताइए क्या एक दिन में क्या बनेंगे सर?
It has to be one of the present guys, or it can be a past.
No, it's living or dead sir. पुराने भी कोई हो सकते हैं. Absolutely.
I would love to have the consciousness level of Vivekanand ji for a day.
Fantastic. So that's brings out your spirituality. So मुरारी जी, आप बता दीजिए आप एक दिन के लिए क्या बनोगे?
I would like to be Ramakrishna Paramahansa, taking
Wow.
from Mr. Bhatia.
Okay, fantastic. So, as the moderator for today, we all had great insight, knowledge from shared from all our pioneers, all our stalwarts of the industry. Personal thanks to Bhatia sir, Sanjay ji, you gave your important time, such valuable time to this cruise forum. This shows your passion towards cruising and all the hard work you've done. I'm sure we are going to reap it in the near future. And Gautam ji is going to help us do it at least at the Bombay port. Thank you everyone, Ratna, Nalini, Sanjay. Thank you all very much for being part of this very insightful session. And I thank Informa and the team of SATTE for giving me this opportunity to be moderating this fantastic session. Thank you everyone, sir.
Thank you. On
Thank
behalf of
you.
Informa
Thank
Markets,
you.
GenX, and Travel Trends Today, T3, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you and our great audience for attending the session. It was indeed very, very thought-provoking, fantastic, and lovely session. Thank you again for the great session. And my special thanks to Mr. Pradeep Sabu, Managing Partner, Guideline Travels, for conducting the session brilliantly. Thank you.
With a short technical glitch, sir. No, right. Things happens all the time. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very